Hello, hello. Very warm welcome from me. I'm Jona Moro and I'm part of Team Depot. Also welcome in the live stream. Just a few words from me, not much. Just thank you very much, Lilli, Lička, for once more organizing today's lecture. We're very glad to have you here. And of course, our guest speaker, Dekker. And also Roland Tusch, thank you already for the moderation. One thing for you in the room here, according like for the live stream, if you don't want to be heard in the live stream, please don't take the microphone that is gonna be offered to you. Then you will only be heard in the room, but not in the live stream. Yes. That's all from me for now. Thank you for coming, and I will hand over to Lilli, Lička.
Thank you very much. Good evening from my side as well, to everybody in here and also to the people watching in the live stream. I will just shortly explain why we have the pleasure to have Dekker at our institute as a visiting professor. The institute is Institute of Landscape Architecture at BOKU University, as it is called now. We have, for the first time, succeeded in successfully applying for a visiting professorship by an artist, which for us is a great success. Of course, it's an even greater success that Andre accepted the invitation. But the reason for that is that we see the connection between the design of landscape and open spaces and the art as a conceptual approach as intrinsic in the necessity of the result. And I think this is something which can be supported through the direct contact, and this is why we are really happy this time. And I hand over to Roland Tusch, who will moderate this evening. Roland Tusch is a researcher and teacher at our institute, and he's currently also carrying out research as a arts-based research, and he has a connection to the artistic approach into the landscape research, which is also the first time at our institute that that he succeeded, or we all succeeded in getting this project funded. So thank you for your moderation. I hand over the microphone and welcome everybody.
Thank you, Lilli. So welcome everybody to this evening. Welcome also to our audience who is attending via live stream, via Zoom. And welcome Dekker, of course. It's a great pleasure for us having you here. You had a lecture some years ago in our series L hoch X. And I think some of the audience might know you already, and you are the reason why they are here again. So for me, it's a pleasure to introduce you to the audience this evening. Dekker is a Dutch artist based in Rotterdam. He's working as a designer, draftsman, scenographer, author. That's quite a wide range, I think. Most of his projects are realized in the field of public art, so public art in public space. And his work explore the boundaries between disciplines, between architecture, sculpture, landscape. I would like to quote him on his understanding of the qualities of a sculpture. A sculpture is ideally three things: a work of imagination, a reflection on the surroundings, and a foundation of communality. It is there to be accepted and experienced. It discloses the nature of the context and motivates action. In 1997, André founded together with Geert van de Kamp, Lieven Pootsma, Ruud Reutlingsberger, maybe, Observatorium, also based in Rotterdam. Observatorium is a studio for public art and place-making. The studio is operating globally and known for its large-scale intervention, combining works of art with sculpture and placemaking. They work in the context of sustainable urban and landscape transition. Observatorium's interventions are both intended to be culturally and socially effective. They achieve their goals by realizing temporary interventions as well as permanent interventions. Most of the works of Observatorium have been realized in the Netherlands and Germany, but there is also a wide range of works they did internationally in public space, for example in New York, but also in Europe, France, Great Britain, and Italy, for example. There's also a large number of exhibitions, publications, lectures, workshops all over the globe. I would like to point out just two books. One, which was for me quite inspiring, on the Zollverein Park, called Zollverein Park, published in 2017. And the book titled Public Art for Public Life, published in 2022, which gives an excellent insight in the work of Observatorium. André has been appointed for visiting professorships at various European universities. For us now, it's a great honor to have you here at our Institute of Landscape Architecture at BOKU University as a visiting professor. I had the chance to be part of your course or attending your course this afternoon for just 2 hours, which was a great pleasure for me to visit Sternwartepark. We see it already in the slide. Sternwartepark, which is named after the Observatorium. Maybe a nice coincidence in that. One question you're addressing in your work with the students is, how can landscape architecture and visual art together promote natural forces and human imagination without adding objects? This seems to me quite a big challenge, because we are quite used to design material interventions, adding objects, adding something to the site we find. So just promoting natural forces and human imagination without adding objects, I'm quite curious to the results of that. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to see Observatorium's work in Zollverein Park in Essen, Germany. It was one part of the competition brief for the park to design an orientation system for the 1 hectares of industrial installations in a World Heritage Site. One idea of Observatorium was to employ park rangers who welcome the visitors, who show them the way around, and who also make small maintenance or small repairs. Objects were built for the park rangers, which explore again the boundaries between architecture, sculpture, landscape, by using scale, material, sculptural quality. It was really a great experience for me to see that work on site. For now, I'm excited to your lecture this evening, and I hand over the microphone to you. one small thing I have to add to our address to our audience attending online. If there are any contributions to a discussion, you're welcome to post them into the chat, and we will come to that back after the lecture. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Lilli. It's really fascinating to hear what people say about Observatorium. It's all correct. That's not the point. But I was wondering myself what the art is in places like this. I did a test 10 minutes ago. I asked the people, where are we in the picture? And most of them, well, this is France. Maybe Paris. And that white cross in the dark green space, that is probably some sort of Versailles. But it's the Sternwarte, im Sternwarte-Park. Und heute haben wir erfahren, dass es eigentlich gar kein Park ist. Es ist Wald. 6 Hektar Wald und wird auch als Wald verwaltet. Keine Bänke, sehr präzise und kurze Öffnungszeiten. Wie bitte? Oh, sorry. I will switch to English now. Hatte ich vergessen. Danke. So, not a park, forest. And it was sort of the first picture I saw of Vienna when I was preparing for the guest professorship. And I was really struck by this image. I thought, what kind of sanctuary is that? It's a castle, it's a palace, it must be such an important icon of the city. Must be. But it is not. Nobody knows it. Or few people. And even fewer people go there. So the students and me, we are promoting with artistic means the values of this piece of forest. That's what we aim for. And after that, the Kronenzeitung will publish about it, and they will once again, contribute to the values of this piece of wilderness. I must say, when I get the chance to speak, I always feel optimistic somehow, because there is something in the air. But today, as a listener to the forest management, I was really, really shocked. We thought we were going to see a tranquil place. And actually, he told us that this is ein Waldstück full of stress. All the climate change is so tangible over there. It cools the city, but it struggles. It's too dry, it's too warm. We have viruses, there is Artensterben. It's unbelievable. He said, well, it's not all is lost. And I said, well, we are going to try to help you. You will do the landscape architecture and the wilderness, and we will do the public art. We go hand in hand. To me, this is, when I'm really serious, I'm saying this. You can read it, but I will add to it that I am in favor of applied art. I think it's the highest form of art. To do art is a challenge, but to make art that is somehow functional or has relationships to people or to sites, that is difficult. And when I started out doing this, I really had no idea that I had to speak to so many authorities and so many people and to have so much patience to realize. But over time I got to like it, that things take time. And I felt more and more like a gardener who needs the time on his side. So to illuminate what is stated here, I will give you first a project in Nantes, in France, which is exemplary for all the things we do. In a nutshell, urban wilderness. 50 years of debate about a highway connecting the Eiffel Tower to the Cathedral of Nantes. Mother Nature took over, and it became such a precious place that there wasn't a highway happening, and there was a huge urban wilderness of the highest quality, Natura 2000. And we were one of the only people allowed in. 300 people can visit this. But it's still for free. And it's really a garden. It's amazing. The word paradise very often comes to people's minds when they are in a wilderness. There's really, really something special that we acknowledge urban wilderness as paradise. And, well, I told you the highway, that didn't happen. Well, there it is. So the sculpture tells the history of the origin of the wilderness, the failed highway. And the porches, they are, so to speak, giving an entrance to that wilderness, but you're not allowed in. So it creates a very, very strong dichotomy, a dialogue, a confrontation, or a clash between city and flora and fauna. I am mentioning in some pictures the names of the curators. I cannot name all the authorities, but these curators, they are utterly important. It's almost half the work to say, I need sculpture here. This is good for my city. Something is lacking here. I need a sign, a signal, a metaphor for us to understand our town. And he knew this. It was a bit of a trick, he said. Like in the Sternwaterpark, you cannot do anything, you cannot go inside, but I want a sculpture. The first artist he was inviting went inside, did a proposal, and was rejected. And very often we say, no, it says, a work of imagination, a reflection on the site, and a building stone for communality, what we do together. When we present our pieces, we very often also depict what could happen. This shows you clearly that people in the future will continue the artwork. They are allowed to build on our foundation. We do sculpture without an aura. That is always for me key to say. It can develop, it can change as the whole world around it will change. It's really weird to say we should not touch the artworks. As I am a professor now, I can say that this is the history of public art in 4 lines. I am the authority. I want to do the middle section, and I'm coming from the top section. These are the ancestors. And below are the circumstances. That is what we have to deal with. Today in the Sternwaterpark, it was so obvious that now we saw the man's hand that was cultivating the wilderness. We are in a park where they look up into the cosmos, and they really know that we're a planetary garden. This phrase comes from Jules Clément, I know. And the climate change, I just listed it for you. What you actually can see and feel in that piece of forest. So, I try to exemplify what is happening. Another kind of urban wilderness. They were creating so many parks between the cities of the Ruhr area that they, in the end, said, well, it cannot be a park anymore, you know. We need to let go. It's just too big. 70 kilometers wide, 50 kilometers from north to south. That's the size of the Ruhr area. And everywhere you look, if you're on a tower in the Ruhrgebiet, you will see forest, nothing else. And this view shows you the River Emscher, as it still was an open sewer, and a canal from Holland somewhere in the direction of Hanover. In the back you see the Nordsternpark, squeezed in. It's so small you hardly notice. And we heard this amazing story that this open sewer, which was a river, will be cleaned, and that they will have a new river in the future. And this was bringing so much hope to the Ruhr area. We said we have to have emblematically a work of art that tells them that it is right to hope. If that river is coming, we don't know when, we will construct the bridge already. We found out that on this side there will be the new course of the river. Exactly here. And that triggers the imagination with people. Say, welcome to the bridge, look down, this is the future river. And they start imagining, let's say, beyond the wilderness, beyond the industrial infrastructure, how wonderful it could be, and how wonderful actually it now is. The big trick of this bridge was that we consider any type of uncultivated land as park when we have a place to observe. I guarantee you, nobody was looking at this. And thousands of people were suddenly enjoying the area. It was a place to live and work. You could also call it a hotel. But it was a strong symbol of the hopes of the Ruhr. And this river flows from Dortmund to Oberhausen. And we had the chance to build that river everywhere where they were constructing a new water infrastructure. So we were in Essen. This is Castor op Rauxel. Kitchen, library, toilets, and 3 bedrooms. And it was what struck us all those years it was sold out. Over 1,200 people wanted to live on that bridge. Here it is in the fields of Oberhausen. It doesn't exist. All the context you have seen by in these pictures is gone. Your fellow landscape architects, they have a lot of work in the Ruhr. I like looking at the history, and history told me that two types of bridges are just brilliant. The zigzag in Asia and the covered bridge in America. We mix them and we have a sort of new typology. And it was also very much about seclusion. In the first years, Observatorium created places for seclusion in public space. We discovered that when someone is by himself in a studio that we have built for him, and we invite the public to see that sculpture with someone in it, there is a huge tension. People like to discover the privacy. People want to have privacy in public. I've met really many people that like to exhibit themselves. And in German, there's this wonderful word, the Schmuckheremit. A hermit who is a decoration in a park. It really existed for some years. I've seen announcement in English newspapers. Who wants to be our hermit? You know, these are your working hours, and you will have a cave in the middle of the park, and you should not speak to the visitors because you're the philosopher. And I met a wonderful poet, Barbara Köhler from Duisburg, and I read a book that was called 36 Views on the Mount Gorwärts in Switzerland, which is, of course, you know, after the 36 views of the Mount Fuji. By whom, I don't know. And I said, can you do that as a guest, as a Schmuckheremit in the bridge? And so she did. And she used the bridge to describe the Ruhr area in 42 verses. And we are using it as a handbook in our course. What can words do for design? Or are words maybe enough to see something as design? One of my favorite mottos of Observatorium is, you must design what is there. So Barbara was among the visitors, among the people. And through poetry you can reach this all. That is what words can do for a site or for an observation of the site. Recently I have seen that landscape architects in a communal effort have written a book about the importance of writing in landscape. It's actually, you know, also in England and in Scotland, a typology of its own. Nature writing. You can win an award for nature writing. She did nature writing in the most poetic way. It was wonderful. Here we come to Zollverein, which is part of that Amscher landscape park. Everything that was forest was either industry or small agriculture. What I learned, just to give you an example, this could be discussed the whole day, but I'm going to point out this to you. Over there, on the other side of the railway, the forest of Zollverein continues. And why is that? There was so much smog in the area that they had to protect the people living around the factory by creating forest. That forest over there, that rectangle on top, is the wildest place I know in the Ruhr. It is planted, but no one looks at it. Nobody knows its origin. It's a very mysterious place, although it's right next to a place which is visited by 1 million people a year. In the design competition, it said you have to have an artist on your team. And we were the only artists that didn't make an artwork. Actually, there was already enough art on Zollverein. Actually, Zollverein began when one artist, Ulrich Rückriem, said, I declare this part of the Documenta in Kassel, this area. I will open up the gates and I will do a sculpture garden. That's how it all started. Everybody was ready for tearing down the whole UNESCO World Heritage Site. That was the plan. That goes to show how important it sometimes is to look at an artist. And this is, let's say, the cultivated wilderness. It is a wild place. Nothing has been planted. Nothing. I found that very brave of the landscape architects with whom we did this. They are called Die Planergroepen. Let it grow and cut it every 2 years. This is how it began. The chief government advisor of the Netherlands is in the middle of the picture. If he now sees this, after 25 years, he will be so amazed. He was part of OMA, the office of Rem Koolhaas. They were responsible for how do you call that? The master plan. Rem the master. I love this picture because it really shows what imagination in words can do. The founder of Planergroepen, Harold Fritz, he said, I call this the Vorgarten. It's in front of the house. and there's always flowers in his Vorgarten. One requisite was to make a panoramic or a scenic route connecting all the important sites. So we also had to design the street. And to the left you see the Huiden, where nothing has been done. And on the right-hand side you see the railway system. You know, industry is actually fabrication and transportation. And they were filled in with concrete, which we wouldn't do now anymore. Absolutely not. Concrete is no go. And this was the idea of using art for orientation. Really, really simple. Yeah. The place always had a doorman, Pförtner. Yeah, and we reinstalled it. And below there, that is a favorite phrase of mine. The local people are, how do you call them? They invite, they show the tourists the way. At the same time, the tourist gets a hunch of how the people in the rural area tick. It's really, really amazing. Someone from Munich wouldn't do it the way they do it. And this is a picture of one of those pavilions with a garden. And as you can see, you know, we took all kinds of references from the site to come to a form. The garden city reference is that everybody in the area has a house, a garden, and a shed for the pig. And this is how it looks now. You are greeted by people that tend their own garden. And the garden is the place where you enter the site of Zollverein. And this is a place where you can look out to the settlements around it. There was a lot of traffic, you know, always back and forth between the settlements and the industry that is now cut off. So at least we were giving them an idea of how it is now, the place where the workers live. A river is also wilderness, of course. And this is how we try to tame it in Holland. Sluices, dams, floodplains, and high water last year. Then all of a sudden, the use of our sculpture became apparent. You see that red car? In the car is someone with binoculars. He's looking at birds. It's an important bird site. So we created something, a parking lot for viewing birds. At first, you know, I was sort of afraid to tell the people that this is a good idea. It's so obnoxious, and this image, I really, But once you're there, it makes sense. It's so simple, the combination between mobility and standstill, to observe. And even if you do not have your binoculars, of course you know, aha, this is that crazy site where birds and people meet. One would say North Sea is wilderness, and the port is where the goods come in, all the things we need. You know, it's mainly oil and stuff. One person once said, most pollutive in the world is not mobility, but stuff, the things we want. The landscape architect, he said, I'm going to surround this new extension of the port with a huge beach. There will be, I want building with nature. Once I have created this delta, then the sea will take over. And I'm going to make sure that down there, this brown triangle will be the highest dune of Holland. Building with nature. Brave idea. Look, wilderness at sea. And this is of course everywhere, you know. It's all around us. At this very moment there's maybe 1,000 people over our head flying over to destinations. That is the site of the dune. We didn't know, by the way. We were asked by the port and a curator to make an artwork for the port. They said, there's a complaint always. People like to visit the port, but they cannot go anywhere. It's all fences and danger. So we went for a tour, and we said, yeah, well, indeed, it's true. You know, we cannot build an observatorium here. And then we said, but you are making this new extension, right? At that time, it looked like this. You were looking from the old city fence to the new land. So they were so, happy, trigger happy to drive us around in their jeeps in this man-made wilderness, and we also loved it. I mean, it's man-made land, the last chunk of man-made land in Holland. And not 4 years later, it looked like this. The same site, same view. There was some difficulty with the sand blowing over the road, but every half year they planted a new, or they shoveled the sand around, and that was the origin, let's say, of our thinking. Everything is sand. The seafloor is sand. The dunes are sand. The industrial complexes are built on sand. Our work should express sand. You've already seen it, maybe. So, two things. A grain of sand doesn't roll. It jumps. It gets stuck between each other, and then the wind cuts them loose. That is what you see on the right hand side. On the left hand side, you see how dunes progress, how they move. And we said we are going to make the skeleton of a dune. We want to look into the future. We want that high artificial dune already now, in order to know what is happening for the people. Look, the model, the sand coming, and this is how it looked when it was brand new. And 2 years later, it looked like this, and we said, yes, it's happening. And we don't know how and how long it will take. But the sand is coming and taking over. The landscape architect is now happy. His dune is growing. But we say, yeah, but the imagination helps you to think that future and to already be in the future. You're inside the future dune. Of course, that is what we people tell them, and there's a big sign explaining this. What people experience here is totally different, of course. But it can go in all directions. That is the good thing about it. She said, this is a cathedral. And the next person said, no, this is for illegal parties. There's someone who made an awful lot of money on this site because he discovered it already after half a year, that this would be the best place for his video, music video, that has now already over 18 million views. We didn't see a penny. So this is right after, and it goes on and on and on. It's incredible, and we had not anticipated this. It's a half an hour drive from Rotterdam. There's no public transportation. But people love the industry, they love the seaside, and there's nothing else but seaside and this one sculpture. That was an amazing decision by the port. They said, we don't want Remi-Demi. No hangouts, no snack bars, beach. And As you can see, it was sort of on top of a artificial sand foundation in 15, and now it is already in a sort of sand bowl, and the grass is growing everywhere in between and holding the sand. It's 12 meters high, 40 meters long. Yeah, this is my hobby as a public artist, to invite poets. This man said, I love his work, and he said, oh, shall we do a marathon? Yes. So he read 24 books that day. And in the back you see the new industry coming. When I would take the picture now, I wouldn't see that chunk of grassland in front of it. That's all built area. All. Miles and miles. Son said, you know, speculation. What is here speculation? I was so surprised to hear. Those ships are not in line because it's busy in the port. They are there because the prices are too low to go in. Once the price is higher, they come into the port. That's why we have this pretty sight on the horizon. Isn't that incredible? That's what they use the wilderness for. To get 2 cents more for 1 ton of I don't know what. In France, in the mountains, the climate change is extreme. Extreme to a point where the economy of tourism is sort of shifting, collapsing, changing. This winter, in this side, there was no snow, almost, no skiing. And sometimes the places of transformation for which they invite us, we are always working in places of transformation. Other people are building too. Sometimes you get invited at a place where a work of beauty has been realized. This is a completely unknown, brilliant piece of art, which is the main central campus square of Grenoble. And we were asked to make a square. After a while, so you see the rectangularity of the campus, and it's put on top of an old map of the river streams. And where you see these 2 circles, that's where a natural disaster happened, which changed the course of the river. And the course of the river allowed, let's say, the university to set up a university in the floodplains. At the moment, it is the upper curve where the river Isère flows. And we said, we are going to tell that story. We are going to tell them that there was once a river on that site, and that a broken tree fell over and changed the course. Right next to that wonderful square by Hatashita. And this is how it looked when we came, and now it's like this. So we broke up the asphalt, rearranged it, we planted some riparian trees, and in between the broken asphalt we allow the herbs to grow. Unfortunately, I cannot show you, let's say, how it is at the moment, but I am assuming that the pavement in the middle is now a place for herbs. It happened in Corona times, which meant that we couldn't created ourselves. So via email we instructed the workers. And as you can see, once the instruction is right, everybody can do it. They did the most wonderful job. From the top. Urban wilderness in Glasgow. Riparian woods along the River Kelvin. And when you have brownfields in the area, then of course the riparian vegetation will also grow there. In the middle, the top, was a sports area, completely neglected. And already after 10 years of neglect, there was a forest. And they said, this is the children's forest, our children's forest. And we will manage it by ourselves. It took a battle. The Times and all the newspapers, they were interested in this conflict between the city and the citizens, but the citizens won. Someone had been losing money. And how do I tell this story? Well, there's a National Theatre, and it has no walls. And when we got invited to make a sonography for a play about autism, we immediately said, in a natural environment, we should create a maze that is somehow the audience telling how it is to be uncertain in public, to not know where to go, the need for protection you feel. And but how do we do that? It's quite big. We invented a system to make walls. And there they are. And look, you really have no idea where you are once you've entered this very, very familiar site. And you're invited for a theater, and in the end you discover you have to find your way in the maze from one monologue to the other. Which was good for the people with autism doing the play. They were not moving. They had their own home. She's in her own apartment, so to speak. And at the end of the show, the actors they meet on a central stage and they do a no performance. I'm very proud to tell you that this person here, she is writing top down, down left. And she was not audience. I could see that. And one day later, she wrote a 5-star review of this for The Guardian. And she said, well, it's not maybe the highest art, but you cannot escape this. This is so emotional. 5 people with autism in this crazy wilderness, in this maze, with so many people. You cannot escape it. I loved that idea that she said, it is inevitable to give it the highest praise, although I don't know artistically. I thought it was great. Graham, my friend, the theater director, he did a great job. Mind you, when you want to do public art in public space and you want to work with people with this handicap, it takes a lot of effort. And actually the maze was sort of also protecting them, you know, from the consternations and all these people watching them. We're coming not to the end, but UNESCO, you know, there's UNESCO geoparks, there's National World Heritage for industry, there's UNESCO World Heritage for seas. But this is cultivated land for a Dutchman. That's our dike, that's our agriculture, and we make new land in front of it. That's how we do it. And it's space for sheep and horses, all kinds of cattle. The landscape was like this. There was no sea defense. In times of flood, you would go to the flood mound. And eventually the flood mound was that big that they also had villages on top. This is the highest in the area. Which is sort of a good idea, no? If we want now an exchange, when we now want to live in peace in times of floods, this could be it. But this is the reality. A huge and monstrous dike. And the commissioner left down. He couldn't follow our imaginations anymore. He went to his car. We had the wildest ideas. Because there was a question. And the question determined the design. This is a circle of villagers living on a mound, looking at the sea defense, losing any contact with that floodplain, with that UNESCO World Heritage. And they said, we will have a new flood mound again. We're going to do what our ancestors did 700 years ago for the last time. We want to be able to go outside over the dike. We want to get wet feet. And it should be here, Mr. Artist. And there they went on that one beautiful day in the carts on their way to the sea defense. And of course, all the children in the carts, because our commissioner said, it's for them. So these are the two important people. They got it done. They collected over €1 million to have this crazy dream realized, to again have a flood mound in a dangerous place. And in the competition that was organized, we said it cannot be a mound with a church. It must be more. As in the June sculpture, we want to give people the idea how it will be. We also want people to be able to assemble on this place, in this very, very windy place. So here you see what we did. It's a circle, and in between the columns, as you see here, you go up. In between the columns. And from a distance, one can imagine how high this mound maybe needs to be in the future when the sea level is rising. It's an anticipation of the possibilities. That's what we always like to include, you know. What can happen? Can we already make a drawing in the landscape that tells you that this is maybe happening? Dark Sky Park, not... sometimes they say to us, we always could go over the dike, but now we have a destination. And I love that word, that an artwork is a destination, and not maybe only to see the artwork. No. It's a place from where you look. That's why it's an observatorium work of art. Most artists, they make you look at a thing, and the thing doesn't look back. You know, there is an interaction, but you cannot enter. You cannot see where it is. When you enter an observatorium, you have a 360 degrees panorama of that so very special site. And the poetry was done by the villagers in collaboration with me. And because it's a bowl instead of a mound, you suddenly realize that this is, yes, for seeing the horizon, yes, for seeing the landscape, but also for the sky. Everybody knows that when you're in a bowl, you look up, you seek a connection with the cosmos, which is quite hard nowadays. Look at all those lines of the planes. Oslo, Amsterdam. It was the one thing that really helped us to get permission was that we connected with the university. We said, we want to construct this, we want to use the new land. This is all fresh land. It's very, the youngest clay you can find. And we want to make that mound. And they said, well, that would be so exciting because the rectangle that you want to take to make this circle is then for us to look at what will be growing there. You know, it's a sort of, how do you call it? 0.0. And I think here you can see on the left what is happening. It's actually a sort of agriculture. There was nothing but samphire over there. You could have gone there and picked kilos and kilos. So that is the pioneering plant of that area. Eatable. Yeah. This explains it all, doesn't it? So the sea defense is behind me. I'm looking at the gate that gives you entrance to the salt marshes. Now you cannot go there because of the bird season, and twice a year this happens. Cosmos. I wanted to write down what we had experienced. I wanted to write down what we had learned. And I asked a very learned man what he thinks as a person that is committed to landscape, to future, to adaptation, to climate change, the chief government advisor. He also has a landscape architecture office. It's called MUST. And he gave us this statement, which was so surprising to us. How can we ever do this? How can public art really, help overcome fear? And now that the book is out, we consider this as our mission. How precise can a mission be? I have a friend in California. His father is a farmer. And he said, can I have this chunk of land? When you say in America it's in Salinas Valley, they all say, oh, the salad bowl of America. So if you are eating baby spinach in New York, it comes from these fields, brought there by airplane. And we have this chunk that we do not tend. It's for free roaming, and it is a place where you can really get sick because of the poison oak. And you have to endure all the pollution that is happening in the farm fields. And this is what we do there. We have a chunk of freedom looking at the mountains. Well, you know, sometimes the mountains, they're on fire, but that is not hurting us. And then came the river. That really hurt it. Our chunk is top right. It's the flood of January. California is insane. Fires and floods every year. And here you, this is then what is now the difference between our site and the farmland. We are on the left and they are on the right. Actually, we are we were already an enclosed garden, but after the flood that got intensified. The levee got wider and higher. So we are now even more protected against industrial cultivation. And the richest farmers, they protect their land in this kind of way. And they are right opposite of us. We are this after the flood. So the tension, or let's say, our little field is now so much more different from the other fields after this flood. You know, the extremes are so much bigger now. We now have water. We now have young forest, and they shave their lands and level the levees. This is the last. Again, Wadden Sea. Most people in West Germany know this island. This is where they spend their holidays. I never was there because we go on holiday in Germany. In brief, the island is beaches, sand, some agriculture, and a lot of plantations. All these forests are planted to protect the island against the wind, to hold the sand. Monoculture, they now regret it. They want a mixed forest, of course. So what do? They have to chop forests. And what do you do with that? If you want to go to the mainland, it is really, really a lot of money that you need. So they said, well, we can deposit it maybe somewhere in the forest. You know what? We'll do it here. There's an old dump which was being covered, and we will put our natural materials that we don't want anymore, all the exotic and the invasion of the exotic species is happening big time over here. So they said, this is junk, and we'll put it on the dump over there. The chunk of June on the right top side was a forest a couple of years ago, partly now in the dump. In its wisdom, the mayor of the island said, all right, I see your problem. You have to get rid of this because you want the June vegetation to remain. But you cannot dump it. The dump must be somehow part of our social life on the island. Can it be a work of art? Can it be land art? Can it be a theater? Whatever. And this is what we did 10 years ago. We made a crater, a platform, and a sort of a backstage area with a circular road leading up. So once you arrive on the top, you go down and you see nothing but your friend. And all of a sudden there's silence in the forest. And it's as high as the forest itself. And this is a scene, when I say Terschelling in Holland, they all go, the place of Oerol. It's a huge, sensational open-air theater site, the island, for 2 weeks. The island as a stage. And our dump here has become one of the main stages. And these are the people that are coming to enjoy a show in the night. That's why they take blankets. And the man in front has this hood on because he was informed that it is infested with insects and, how do you call them? Midgets. Yeah. And this is one of the spectacles that happened in the crater. And now, it goes on. Exotic vegetation keeps coming. So they wanted a higher dump. And we said, well, that is just right, because we were never happy with our design. It can be used. There was this crater, and it was high over the forest, but it lacked any sort of delicacy. So already 10 years ago we said, this was an urgent action. It's maybe interesting to tell. We had 2 days to make the design for that theater mound, because it was in the last moment that the state forestry discovered that they couldn't dump it. So they needed this design for the social and cultural space to hand it over next Tuesday to the mayor. So in the weekend we made the design. And they got the permission. But we said, you lack money, of course. But they kept their promise and they said, in maybe 10, 15 years, we will start anew. And indeed, now, 10 years later, State Forestry says it could be so much higher because we have so much invasive species that we want to get rid of. And we thought, brilliant. So it will be, it now is 14 meters, it will be 30. It will be the highest June in the on the island. And it was always grass and sheep, which was the only way they could maintain it. And now we are trying to create a vertical garden. How do you do a garden on an island where they are so afraid of exotic species? We have to find out. Is there still some energy in the room? Can we handle 1, 2 more maybe? Yeah? Wilderness in Scotland. Corona times, I couldn't go anywhere. I was planning a study trip to Japan. I got my money back and I visited my friend in Glasgow, the theatre maker. And I said, I know a place where artists can live in seclusion by the coast on the Isle of Mull. You saw low tide, this is high tide. The tide, because this side, look, The white line on the left is that bay. The land left of it is twice a day an island. That means that every day I can see people walking over the sand to do shopping. When it's not an island. They live with the tides. That is so beautiful. She walks from this patch to the other one in a diagonal line with shopping bags at low tide. And at high tide, I went there to see my chunk of Japanese nature, which I was going to visit and fly to, in Japan. So I was so amazed. And my friend, the theater director, Graham, who is so fond of no theater, was so excited. He said, we can do this here too, Why fly over and learn from the Japanese if we know it all by heart already? We can do it here. Let's make a play. How do you do that when you don't have an audience in Corona times? We will write the play, I will do the drawings and the photography, and we will also do a film. Anything possible, anything we can do to reach an audience that is at home. A book and a film which can be seen on the internet. And we got introduced by Miek Zwamborn, a writer, about the culture of seaweed in that area, and it was amazing to see. It was the main economy once, seaweed as fertilizer and as food, all gone. And now, we have to really, really be careful not to lose that opportunity to work with seaweed, because also here, this wilderness is suffering from those climate changes. So I said, I will make you a ghost with seaweed. And this is a scene in the film. Filming with the tidal island in the background. And now we are back in Paris. This is so wonderful. Why isn't this the icon of Vienna? It's amazing. This is what you have here. It's amazing. University, looking at the cosmos, protected by the plants. A very, very interesting topography of the sand. You can see that they have modeled this area. We are wondering, the students and I, where the sand went. And we are wondering what we can do to make this a popular place without invasions. How can we modestly do some art that, gives a sense of wonder to a place that is already some magic? And how, at the same time, can this artwork inform us about the tragedies happening there? Because it's really no fun to listen to the man who is maintaining this area. Look, he has to do Wering till October, watering all the trees in the city. And behind the wall, it's not necessary. So we want more wilderness. It's as simple as that. At the moment, this is the strategy. We are opening up this as a kind of park, although it is a forest, but we won't have benches. We are opening it up, but only a few hours a day, and not in the weekend, because that will cause trouble. Wilderness will not be able to cope with the vandals. We have to protect it. But do not touch and do not enter. I mean, how long can you say that? Yeah, how long is that a true statement? What will it be in 100 years' time? It will be completely different. You know, if you look at pictures of 50 years old, you know this world is ever changing at the highest speed. What will happen here? This building is decrepit. The BIM or the MIM or the, what are they called? Bundesimmobiliengesellschaft is the owner of this ruin. So we are looking for ways to to do creative management, maintenance. Is there a way of maintaining wilderness as such that our abilities to create beauty are also valuable and useful in places we actually do not want to touch? And we can do that because today we heard that they are actually just gardening. That's an exaggeration. They do cutting, they make clearances, they monitor the site. It's a worry. So they know everything about the land, the landscape, maintenance, and we from the arts will try to help them a bit. And this is maybe our biggest wish, that in the Sternwater Park you feel cosmos. And these are the artists. That was it for tonight. Feel free to have a look at my collection of self-made mottos for life as an artist in public space. My favorite is, of course, the one on top. It's the newest. Applied art is the highest form of art. In Holland, there's this phrase that in times of transition, everybody experiences transition pain. And we are aiming for the pleasure of transition. And the one in the middle, make use of conflict. That will be very, very useful in the Sternwater Park. And this is the book. And that has maybe as a title the motto that is the motto of the mottos. We do not do public art for public space, as they call it, Kunst im öffentlichen Raum. No, for public life, for us, and our exchange with the environment. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Andre, for this inspiring lecture and thoughts. We have now time and space for discussion.
Katrina, don't go.
And recall for Katrina.
And then you can go. Give me the question.
Okay, no, yeah, it's difficult to pin down the question since you're looking into the future, and it's like really curious what's going to happen in this site that you have a look at. So it's I mean, the other projects that are going on and living their lives, but it's a bit difficult now that you are heading on to a new project, and this, of course, is full of questions. What is going to happen? But it's not. It's a bit difficult to pin down now.
Actually, you're saying I have no questions, but I will come and see the result.
Perfect. I couldn't have put it better.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, André. I have a very practical question. It's me asking about the unwanted species. In which form are they dumped? Are they, ground? Yes, but if you don't be careful, they come back. So how do you prevent them from being alive?
This gives you an overview of the island. On top is the North Sea. These are the plantations. They will keep them, but they will mix them. At the moment, it's only Dennenbos. Yeah, yeah. And you can clearly see that these are the plantations. But right on top, you maybe can see that they have been shaving the land, like the farmers in California. They first bulldoze that American plant that is unwanted in all of Europe. What's it called? I'm not a landscape architect. Yeah. So they bulldoze it, they transport it with vans to the site, and then they, so with the roots and all, they take it out, and then they flatten the land, and they make sure that some water can can flow to that site. So let's say they are imitating the origin of the island. A lot of sand, a bit of water, mixture, salt and sweet water. And that's how they do it. And they are quite successful. Shaving the land gives you, let's say, the precious dune vegetation.
But is it a real dump for the plants? I mean, are the plants in your theater mound?
We will have a cover, of course.
But
that's what you mean.
No, I just don't understand. It's a dump for unwanted plants.
Yes.
So what you do is you bring the unwanted plants there and you dump them?
30 meters high.
Yes. And then you cover them, or
yes, it
will
will
you
be
mix
covered.
them with what you just explained, and then something?
No. On top they will have a topsoil of maybe 1 meter of sand.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is also that top layer, and as you can see, with tractors they planted grass. Well, we don't want grass anymore. And the cars are inside. Yes, they're still there. It's a museum. You cannot enter the museum, but it's a no, it's like a pyramid, you know. It's full of treasures.
Any further comments, questions? Here in the back. Is that working now?
Maybe that's not good. Is it? Well, I don't know if it's working. I would have a question regarding interaction, because I think you nicely showed how public art can really turn people into observers. So you basically you bring them to the site and they start interacting and observing, the processes that go on in nature. And I was wondering if public art could also have the potential to really stimulate interaction between people and the sites, because what we see, so we do research on urban wilderness in Vienna, and we see that it's really the interactions that people have with the site. So if they start exploring, maybe also building some houses and stuff, so really using even the materials on site, then it's really when they start to build a bond with the site, develop some also relational values, and it really start, wanting more even of these sites. So I wonder if art actually then can be a way of, stimulating these more...
On the island, it was the only solution.
No, in general, I'm talking now more about the projects you showed about urban wilderness. So in the cities, where, Stella at the back would be a good example. So you said we shouldn't touch, maybe. And I fully agree that could be dangerous, if we allow people inside and start, or allow people to build a hut, whatever, But at the same time, I think we can sacrifice some of these sites to really bring people closer to nature, because it's where most people grow up, in cities close to where they live, basically. So, in order to I finished. So I'm just wondering if public art can then be a means to that, So.
Yeah, well,
I don't know if you understood my question.
What you're saying reminds me of the visit we had in the Sternwartenpark today. We went off the road into the wilderness, guided, not allowed by anyone. And when we arrived at the place they wanted to show to us, the place where wild bees live in a sandy hill, there was a bench stolen from the Turkenschanzpark and put there by the people that want to act with nature. You see, you have so many different audiences, and maybe this is now a bit silly to say, but there are not so many people that like nature and that want to interact with nature. They want to go on a hike, they want to see something beautiful, but an interaction, I don't know. And what we try to do is to disclose the site, to make it as generous and inviting as possible. For instance, in the rural area, you could live and work on the site. And what we also try to do is that the sculpture is an emblem for that site. We want to create some more understanding. We use also the materials. We made a lookout at the highway in Rotterdam, made of asphalt and crash barriers. Everybody in the car sees it, and the people. No, does it answer your question? I want to answer your question, but I'm not sure I'm getting it.
Yeah, I think it was a question. Maybe it's just a reflection.
It's a reflection. Yeah.
Just wondering, because it's great.
Can you just give me one question?
It's just from my side, maybe it's a reflection. But
give me the question.
No, it's not the question. I mean, it's maybe something we should do research actually about, but to see what the public art actually does, because I think what you do is to bring people to the site, so you really make them to observe, which is great. So it's something which probably most people wouldn't even do. But then I think the next step would even be then, to stimulate something in people so that they come back to the site, maybe on their own, and start interacting in different ways even, not just being.
Do you remember that one sketch of the wooden highway in France? We gave them an idea of how this site could be in 20 or 30 years when we leave it to them. As I said, presenting it, I don't want the arts aura of that place. Yeah? Which means that people around the area, or theater makers or whatever, they can use it to their liking. Not destroy it, but continue, let's say, the idea. If someone says this is a great piece of art, a wooden highway, perfectly done, and I want, let's say, in times of drought, to make a petrol station for for children, to give them water. That would be perfect. We always invite them to continue the idea. And we make that public. It's also in the book, you know. It's a really big statement. We have even made a big steel sculpture which you can take apart and reassemble in other configurations on a hilltop in Germany. That kind of interaction is really important, but I must warn you, you know, there's always such an anticipation when people hear that an artist will come and that they will work with him or her. And on the other hand, the places where we go are very often deserted. That's why we do the disclosure, but you know who I encounter most in public life? The dog walker. Yeah, it's really sad. This wonderful forest, not far from the city, Sternwater Park. We meet 10, 20 a day. And that is so pure, that is such a wonderful sight. But you don't bring your children, you don't hang out with your dog, you don't do jog, you know. If we want to be precise, then we must also say we are sort of spoiled with city furniture. The whole city is furnitured, so to speak. Wilderness, I'm not sure. You know what happens when you go to the wilderness? You first have to cross the parking lot. Always, everywhere. That's how we live nowadays. If there's wilderness, there's a car park.
André, I have just one question to the co-creational process of the Terp van de Toekomst. Takomst, sorry. How did it work out? Where was the initiative found at
the village.
Grounding the village?
Yeah.
So they found
these
you.
Two people in the picture were the founding fathers.
Okay.
And they organized some 100 villages to collaborate with them. Yeah. And most of the villages have also the name of their family somewhere written in the flood mound. So it's really their territory, and it's really popular with artists. People want to do theater and radio and dance.
May I add another question about collaboration? How do you conceive an artwork at Observatorium, in your group? How do you go about it? How do you work together?
We are 4 completely different guys. Have you seen that motto, make use of conflict? Well, no, we have a sculptor on board. I do the writing, the talking. We have one man who's actually, you have seen his drawings every now and then, and he's an incredibly agile communicator. And the 4th guy, he is sort of das Faktotum. And he has the least, let's say, urge to make a statement. Without him, it would be a thing. So we talk a lot, and I have a library. I bring in knowledge of former public art, what I consider public art, which wasn't called public art. Cave painting, for instance, cave painting, temples in the wilderness. The sculptor is a constructor. He can build with hands. He can make technical drawings. So we are actually sort of bringing together 4 disciplines: writing, architecture, sculpture, drawing.
I would like to add one question. You were talking about processes, about wilderness, which is obviously also a process. And you were really in detail in explaining, initiating these processes. I'm curious, what's your interest about guiding these processes? In the introduction you said you can let the artwork go and it can change and so on. And I observed that you're interested in a kind of monitoring or looking at your works also the years after. But is there an interest also in guiding this process over the years?
I think not so much. We take a look very often. We have learned in the years that, and now this is the motto from my uncle, civilization is maintenance. He was a missionary in Africa. He said, we can bring the stuff, but you must also teach them to maintain it. I love it. Civilization is maintenance. So we design, let's say, a site, and we also try to design a keeper. Who is the best person to be that guide, or to maintain it, or to collect money to restore it, or to have new impulses? Our work of art needs a keeper.
Yeah. As this is also a social space here, I would suggest that we go on with the discussions in a more informal way now. Just want to ask, are there any questions from the chat? No, there are not. So if that's okay for everyone, I would say thank you for this lecture. Thank you for being here at Depot. Thank you for attending via Zoom. And we go on with a drink and with a chat outside in the neighboring room. Thank you.